Phyllis Head, and I am from Get Healthy Live Well at Tanner Health System. I'd like to thank Rose Holly especially for inviting us to be a part of this year's Hope for the Journey. Rose called and asked me if I would do a healthy cooking lesson for your program, and I was thrilled because Get Healthy Live Well has just opened up its newest teaching kitchen. We're doing a lot of work with a program called Food is Medicine, and we're working with diabetics and people who might have hypertension, that kind of thing, to teach people how to cook healthier, more delicious food to change their diets so they can live a healthier life. So today what we're going to be cooking is a dish called Ratatouille. I thought since it was the end of the summer and we still had some vegetables coming out of the garden, but it was getting cool at night, it would be nice to have a vegetable stew. And so Ratatouille is just that. We're going to be using eggplants, squash, peppers, garlic, tomatoes, and fresh basil. All of the things that you can get out of your garden, your late garden. So let's get started. I've done a little pre-cooking because it takes a little longer than I think you have time to listen to me today. So we're going to be working first with the star of our dish, the eggplant. We're going to be roasting the eggplant and the squash along with the peppers. But the rest we're going to do on the stovetop. So first I'm going to show you how we're going to take this eggplant apart. We're going to get it so it's nice and flat. We're cutting the ends off, and then we're going to go and do a 1-inch dice. No, not a 1-inch dice, let's say a 1/2-inch dice. So I'm cutting this into planks. We're just going to do that. Cut it into planks, easy enough. And I'm just going to give you an example. I'm not going to do the whole thing because like I said, I've already got the magic oven over there with plenty of eggplant already roasted. But you're gonna do just little 1/2-inch squares. Eggplant is a great vegetable. It tastes a little bit like whatever you cook it with. It's spongy. So you're gonna fix that eggplant, you're gonna drizzle it. You're gonna do the whole eggplant. You're gonna drizzle it with a little olive oil. And then it is going to go, here we go, we're drizzling it with olive oil. You're gonna put a little salt on that, and then you're gonna throw it into a cookie sheet. It's gonna come out looking like this after you've roasted it, okay? Then we're gonna do the same thing with our squash, our zucchini, and our pepper. We're gonna break those down. Easy as can be, same kind of thing. Here we go. These are also gonna be 1/2-inch cubes. And if you take just a regular size squash and quarter it, you get about the right size. Then we're gonna just do these in little cubes. Same thing, they all go into a big bowl. We got one over here. So there's your yellow squash. If you don't have yellow squash, if you've got lots of zucchini in the garden, you can do it with just zucchini. You can do it with zucchini and yellow squash. If you've got anything else in your garden that you really love, throw it in there. It's a vegetable stew. You can do anything with it. A recipe, we like to say at Get Healthy Live Well that a recipe is a guideline. It's not set in stone. If there's something in a recipe you see that you don't particularly care for, then you don't have to use it. So here we're going for our pepper. We're just gonna take the sides off this pepper. There you go. And the peppers are gonna be a little bit bigger chunks. They break down a little quicker, so we're gonna make them a little larger. You know, we used to talk and Get Healthy Live Well when we worked with the kids about eating a rainbow. Well, this dish is very much rainbow-like. It's beautiful colors. You've got the purple eggplant, the red peppers, the yellow squash, and you've got this beautiful green zucchini. So there's a lot of color. And we also talk about eating 5 fruits and vegetables a day. Well, this one stew pretty much covers the whole thing that you need. So we're also going to put about a tablespoon of oil on our peppers and our squash. And we're going to put them in a separate roasting pan. They're going to cook. The reason we do 2 separate pans is that the peppers and the squash take a little bit longer to cook, but through the magic of video, guess what I got here? The already done squash and peppers. So when it comes time, we'll add those into our pot. Now the rest of this is going to be done on the stovetop. We're going to take 2 tablespoons of oil, and I got my tablespoon because what I find when we're cooking is that after a while when we stop using our measuring spoons, we tend to get a little extra generous sometimes. So we're going to be pretty careful with this in case anybody out there is watching their weight. And we're measuring 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we're going to do this. We've got an onion. I'm going to cut this up. I didn't take off that outer layer. I'm going to take off just that outer layer because it's got a little skin on there. I shouldn't have sliced it first. I'll be like Julia Childs, just show you how to do with the mess up. So here we go, and we'll slice it this way, and we're just going to do a fairly large dice. It doesn't have to be very small because, like I said, this is a vegetable stew. We're going to cut that up. You're going to put a medium-sized onion. I don't like to waste anything, so I'm going up the sides here. A medium-sized onion. We're going to chop that up. There we go. No problem at all. And we're going to get that going. It's going to take about 10 minutes to get these onions softened. So we're going to start. Let me get the stove going. That usually helps. There's our burner on. There we go. Now, while we're letting the onions soften, we're going to get our garlic going. Now it's funny, when I do teaching classes here, you'd be surprised how many people just don't cook at all. So we teach them little tricks, and they always love the garlic trick. Side of the knife, and just bash it. Because peeling garlic can be a pain. And you see that, and you really give it a good whack. Because if you don't, and those skins come right off. Easy as can be. You don't have to worry about peeling. Because you want to get those papery skins off. And we're doing that. Here we go. Paper, paper. One more. And they also have these little end pieces that are kind of hard. So I just go and I cut those off. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're using 4 cloves of garlic with that medium onion. We're going to just pull those all in. There's a little piece of paper. And we're going to rock our knife across that because we don't want to get a big piece of garlic. I'm not a huge garlic fan. I love it, but I don't like whole big chunks of it. I like it when it flavors my food. So we're using that. Small, finely diced. And what happens when you finely dice it, or you just smash it, you give that garlic a lot of extra surface area, so it really flavors the food well, which is what you want. Here we go. So we've got a nice little dice on that. I'm going to go ahead, scoop this up, and put it in a little dish. We're not quite ready to put it in with the onions. The thing about garlic is it can burn really quickly. So we want to put it in kind of at the end of the cooking. So we've got these lovely onions, stirring them into the pot. I wish you had smell-o-vision because you know how a kitchen always smells when you start doing the onions and the garlic? Well, that's how the kitchen's starting to smell. and it's wonderful. You've got your onion, it's softening up. While we're waiting for our onion to get a little further cooked, we're gonna tackle the tomatoes. Now you see here we have all these beautiful tomatoes. We're gonna use these, they're kind of smaller, so you need 6 to 8 of these tomatoes. If you have a food processor, you can cut them up and just buzz it a time or two until you make a puree of it. If you don't though, a lot of people don't have a lot of kitchen equipment. So what you can do is just take a grater, and I'm gonna show you. You're gonna grate these tomatoes, and they're really nice and juicy. Here we go. You're gonna grate them all the way down, and be careful with this grater. You know, it looks awfully safe, but I've cut my hand on a grater way more times than I've ever cut my hand on a knife. So here we go. Get that second tomato. I'm just doing a couple of these to show you. I'm gonna grate those up. And like I said, we put about 6 to 8. I've already got most of them already grated up here. We're gonna pull that out. Get all that goodness out of there. I'm gonna put this back in my sink. And this goes into our bowl full of tomatoes. Right there. Now look at all this. That's a lot of tomato that you don't want to waste. So we're not going to waste it. We're going to cut it up. We're going to flip that. I'm just going to take the little core out. Those little bitty pieces right there. Because there's too much food there to be wasted, and I'm all about not wasting anything. So here we go. We're just going to cut that up with our knife and give it a little rough chop. It doesn't have to be teeny tiny because it's going into the stew. So you can do that with all 8 of your skins after you get the good middles out. And you're pulling that all together, putting it in the pile of tomatoes, and here we go. All right, so you've got your tomatoes, you've got your garlic, we've got all our vegetables cut up. Now you're gonna roast these vegetables in the oven, 15 minutes and 15 minutes. You're gonna put both sets of pans in the oven at the same time. You're gonna start with your peppers on the bottom and your eggplant on the top. After 15 minutes, you're gonna take them out, stir them up, and then you're gonna switch and put your eggplant on the top and your peppers on the bottom. And stir them up after 15 minutes. You're gonna add them into the pot. You're gonna let your squash and peppers cook about 10 minutes longer than the eggplant does. So after the second 15 minutes, you're gonna pull out your eggplant, but you're gonna let your squash and your peppers continue on, okay? Now what's next? That's starting to smell really good, y'all. We're gonna put our garlic in now. And that's 4 cloves of chopped garlic right in there. Garlic can burn very quickly, so put it in about 30 seconds before you're gonna add your tomatoes. That's all it needs. And you can feel it, you can smell it. It smells divine. You get that hit of garlic, nothing better. And then here we go. We're adding all those tomatoes we pureed. There's one big crazy piece in there I'm not gonna put in. And we're gonna stir that in. So we've got this started. It's our onions, our garlic, our tomatoes. Everything looks great. Now the last thing we're gonna add is this big old pile of leaves. Who wants to guess what that is? Basil. It smells great. It'll smell even better when you cut it up. Now if you'll see, I've made a stack of leaves. I got one big leaf on the bottom, and then I put the littler leaves. I'm gonna roll it up like I'm rolling a teeny tiny little cigar. And then we're just gonna cut this into strips because we're gonna use this at the very end after we take the food off the heat. It makes little ribbons, you can see. And then we're gonna cut it even further. Oh, y'all, that smells so good. Adding that fresh green at the end just gives it such a fresh garden feel that I absolutely love it. It really adds a pop of aroma and taste that's just yummy. So here we go. Gonna get that chopped pretty fine. You know, that doesn't look like enough. They asked for about a 1/4 cup, so I'm gonna steal some of these over here. You're just taking your big leaves. There you go. And you can add more and more. I'm gonna do a few more leaves. Roll these up. Y'all, I have basil in my garden. I have a little back garden room in my house, and I just grow it in a big pot, and I can use it all year round. It's just fabulous. It grows great outdoors, but it also, if you have a spot indoors, that's one of those things you can grow in a kitchen garden that just works perfectly. So here we go. I'd say that's a good 1/4 cup. We're gonna put that in our little container, and we're not gonna put that in until the very end. But I can smell all those good things cooking away. So our tomatoes and our onions have cooked down, and those flavors are starting to meld. So you want to go in with your hot pan, which is not too hot, so I'm just going to use my hands. We're going to add our eggplant in first, because like I told you, that eggplant's going to come out first. It cooks a little bit faster. It's nice and brown. You can see along the edges. I don't know if you can see. Can you see? It's nice and brown along the edges. We're just going to put that into our pot. And remember, we did these with olive oil, and we also sprinkled a little salt on there. So we're going to stir that in and let those flavors meld. Beautiful. And then when those, I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit. Yeah, get that really going. Then we're going to come over and do the same with those that roasted squash and those peppers. Here we go. Scrape, don't leave anything on the plate. Every bit of this is yummy goodness. We roasted these at 425. That's on bake in the oven, 425. And they should come out perfectly. Everybody's oven's a little different. Sometimes you'll find you need to go up to 450. But 425, 450 is great for roasting any kind of vegetable. And you leave it in there 15, 20 minutes. These, like I said, we did for 15 minutes. Then we switched them and did them 15 minutes more. We're going to hit this with a little salt. We used 3/4 teaspoon of salt. 1/4 of that went on to our eggplant, 1/4 went on to our peppers and squash, and then that last little 1/4 just goes into the pan. Then we're going to add pepper to taste. I did about 1/4 teaspoon of just black pepper. We're going to let those flavors meld. I don't think you want to sit here and watch me stand here for 5 minutes, so I'm going to tell you how we end this up. We put it off the burner. We go ahead and turn that burner off, and we add our roasted red pepper flakes. So those are hot, spicy. If you like those, I put 1/4 teaspoon in, but it was kind of a heaping teaspoon because I love hot, spicy food. And then beautiful dried oregano goes in. Oh, and those flavors, when that oregano hits that heat, it's absolutely divine. And then, last but not least, that beautiful basil. You don't want to cook it in there. You want to hit it in there at the very last. If you're watching your weight, you're done. If you're not, you could drizzle that last little pot with another tablespoon of olive oil. But I like to skip that part. I think it's great without it. So if you're serving it, this lovely, lovely dish. I don't know if you can see it. Can we get a glimpse here of these beautiful, beautiful roasted vegetables? It's a lovely stew. You can serve it over rice pilaf. You can serve it with a whole grain brown rice. You could serve it with quinoa or buckwheat, any kind of grain. It's wonderful with, or you could just have a nice warm bowl of it with a crusty piece of bread. It makes a delicious dinner. And like I said, it gets your 5 fruits and vegetables in. It's healthy. It is from the garden. It is as healthy and delicious a dish as you'll find. So I'm happy to have shared my ratatouille with you. I hope you go home and think about cooking it. If you want, I'm gonna send Rose the recipe and she can put it on your website, okay? So you'll have it if you're interested. Thank you so much. We appreciate you inviting us to be with you, and thanks for sharing our kitchen with us. Bye-bye.